Hey guys, Chris here with the Good Old Gamer. So today we got some really interesting information. So our good friend Jim from AdoredTV posted this video earlier today, and in that video, he got information from an NVIDIA insider about the brand new NVIDIA GPUs, which he says is going to be called the RTX 2080, which this is much different from all of the other rumors that we've been hearing. Now, in that video, Jim goes over the fact that he's unfamiliar with this particular source and isn't 100% sold on this, but wanted to present the information because it is very plausible. And that's really where he's going with that. And I've already been approached. People want me to give my 2 cents on this situation. So that's what we're going to do here today, as well as my insider information doesn't exactly line up with what Jim has. So we're going to compare the two and see if we can figure out if any of this information is actually true. So stick around and check it out. Alrighty guys, first off I want to apologize. This is a screenshot from Jim's video, so the video quality on this, or the image quality here, may not be the best. But basically this is the big information that he brought up today. First off, the fact that the high-end GPUs will be called RTX instead of GTX, and that's going to be reserved for the lower-end GPUs. So starting off, we got the Titan RTX, which supposedly will be 15% faster than the Titan V, 50% faster than the 1080 Ti, which that lines up if it's 15% faster than the Titan V. Memory at this point, he's saying, is unknown, and the price point is looking at about $3,000, which is the same price point that the Titan V is at this particular point in time. Now, the more interesting bit is the RTX 2080. He's calling it the TU104, and this is supposedly going to come in at 8% faster than the 1080 Ti, or 50% faster than the GTX 1080. Well, that sounds familiar. If you guys haven't seen this video, you should probably check that out. Now, granted, I've come to realize that the information in that video is probably not correct, but the 50% faster, I figured that was going to be the target for the replacement of the 1080 anyway, using 8 gigabytes of GDDR6, priced between $500 and $700. Now, this may seem like a crap ton of money, but realistically, if they even have a fake MSRP anywhere near $599 or $499 rather, that'd be pretty crazy. This is going to be $700 plus, much like the GTX 1080s when those launched. Next up, due out in September, so a month later, the RTX 2070 is supposedly going to be built on the TU106 chip, which is typically reserved for the GTX like 1060, 960, that level of GPU. Normally, the 70s are just cut down 104 chips, so that's very interesting to see there. And supposedly going to be 17% faster than a GTX 1080 and 40% faster than the current GTX 1070. Now that's going to put it right in between a 1080 and a 1080 Ti, so not quite at that 1080 Ti level if this happens to be correct. Now, oddly enough, they're going to be using 7 gigabytes of GDDR6. Now, we do know NVIDIA is known for playing with weird amounts of memory, so theoretically possible there. And then, of course, going to be priced between $300 and $500. And once again, we already know that this is likely going to be near that $500 mark at the very least. November, we're looking at the GTX 2060, so we're going back to GTX, and supposedly this is on a TU116 chip, which honestly, not really sure what that actually means. There has to be something different between these two. What it is, I don't know. It's supposedly going to be 7% slower than a GTX 1070 and 27% faster than a GTX 1060. I could see that. It's basically going to be a GTX 1070. I could see that happening. 5 gigabytes of GDDR6, that's another red flag there because we're stepping back on RAM again. I don't know. I just don't really see that making a lot of sense. Perhaps going with 6 gigabytes again, that I could see happening with GDDR6 and keeping the 192-bit bus, but okay. Then we got $200 to $300. Probably shooting for that $299 plus mark with this level of GPU at this point, but we'll have to wait and see. And then you have the GTX 2050 on the TU117 chip. Once again, not entirely sure what that is. Supposedly going to be 18% slower than the GTX 1060 and 50% faster than the 1050 Ti. Like I said, that seems like some big numbers there. If it's 50% faster here, I don't think it can be 18% slower. Once again, the math just doesn't quite add up for me there. 4 gigabytes of RAM, that's probably likely. And then, yeah, this will be at least $200, if not more. All right, so that's a lot of information that he went over. He went over it in a 20-minute video. I wanted to just, there you go. It's right in your face. You can figure it out. You can watch his video. That's obviously the best thing to do, and you can take it there. Now, I actually was approached after I did that GTX 1180 Can It Be 50% Faster video. Once again, if you want to check it out, it's right here. In that video, I used all the rumors and information that was floating around out there. I disregarded the ones that I knew were just FUD. The ones that seemed most probable, I used and actually applied logic to that whole situation. I had no extra information. I had nothing besides the rumors that were out floating about in the world. After that video, I was approached by an individual that wanted to give me more information. And since then, I've been fed almost daily information as to what's been going on behind the scenes. And the numbers that I'm seeing over here don't quite jive with what Jim has. Now, there was one thing that really confused me and this individual, and that is both Pascal GPUs were being tested and Volta/Turing GPUs were being tested. And the whole time I'm like, well, why would they be using Pascal? Are they doing a Pascal refresh? Or are they just going to use the Volta, Turing, whatever they want to call it, for the super high end, and then they want to use Pascal for the cheaper stuff? And that's kind of what I think Jim's talking about here. I know that's called the TU-116 or whatever, but more than likely that's probably going to be a Pascal refresh if the information that I have is correct. Now, what I didn't quite realize is the fact that they were going to rebrand everything and go with RTX. And that's something I didn't see coming. And realistically, after watching Jim's video, a few pieces started to fall into place in my head. Why would they have both a Pascal refresh and another architecture at the same time? And they're both in high-end GPUs. Now, let me go ahead and show you this here. Now, my source is saying that the information on these placeholders are actually correct and accurate. So once again, take this with a grain of salt. This isn't confirmed. I was actually going to wait until the GTX 11 or 20 series launched and then verify the validity of this particular source. But because everybody wants me to talk about this now, I figured might as well. Jim's got some stuff. Let's try to see what's going on out there. But anyway, they're telling me that this is actually correct. So for the 1180 or 2080, however they're going to name it, that's, once again, it's up in the air. Nobody's really sure. But the specs in here are supposedly correct. And this is going to have 2944 shading cores, 184 TMUs, and 64 ROPs. And this is going to be running at 1515 megahertz with a boost clock of 1630 and the effective memory at 14 gigahertz, and that's GDDR6. Now, none of this seems out of this world, but when you think about this, NVIDIA is also running GP102 chips, new GP102 chips with 3200 cores. And this is running 10 gigabytes of GDDR5 on a 320-bit bus. And this is what was really confusing me. I'm like, why would they be running GP102s unless they want to just use GP102 for the 1180, 2080, whatever, and then go ahead and use the Turing or Volta for, you know, the TI class on up. And when you really think about it, 3200 and 2944, those are too close for two different architectures to really make any difference. It's like, why would you have one of these and then build one of these? Because we know Volta is not that much better. But from what I'm gathering, it sounds like the Turing architecture may actually be something different than either Pascal or Volta. And when it clicked that NVIDIA is building two very similar GPUs, this is what I think may actually end up happening. So I think that they're going to disband the GTX from RTX. I think the RTX lineup is going to become the premium brand. And you have your Titan. Well, here, I got this graph a little backwards, but you have your Titan at the top, then there's going to be RTX, and then there will be GTX underneath that. I think this is all about segmentation of the market. And what's going to happen, I think, is because these GPUs are real. They exist in the real world. Now, we just simply don't know where they're going to land on the stack, if these rumors are to be believed. Now, think about it like this. If they went ahead and sold a GTX 1180, which is basically just a cut-down version of the 1080 Ti, looking at the specs, just cut down a little bit here across the board, it'll be a little bit slower than the 1080 Ti in performance. They sell this for maybe about $500-ish. And then you have, let's say, an RTX 1180, which would get confusing. But what if they went with RTX 2080? Something that might be a little bit more definable. I don't know. This is all speculation. I'm just going off of the assumption that these chips right here actually exist in reality. Now, this could be the newer architecture based off of Turing or Volta or whatever it ends up being, and sell the new technology at a premium. You sell this at the budget price that people expect, the $500-$600. And then for this GPU, you charge a premium. Now, if you look at the specs here, if the architecture on the new Turing/Volta, whatever it ends up being more efficient, let's say it's 10% faster, performance-wise on current games, this would likely compete very, very well. These would be very, very similar in performance. Now, the big difference, obviously, is going to come into the fact that this has technology that this one doesn't. So the RTX brand may sell for $899, $999, but if you don't need that and you don't want the ray tracing, you can go ahead and get yourself just the GTX model. Think of it like in Jim's video, the GeForce MX, which I'm thinking the GTX may become the new MX, the old technology. The RTX becomes the new technology. It's more expensive, it costs more, and they may even use 7 nanometer on this one and charge a premium for it. Now, that has been done before. In Jim's video, he talks about that. The GeForce 4 MX was just rebranded GeForce 2s. And then you had the GeForce 4 Ti's, which were the new technology. Now, if you really think about it and you look at this price scheme here, you have a Titan class GPU at $3,000. You have nothing between the $3,000 price point and $700. That's too big of a gap. It would make sense that the RTX lineup would be that $1,000 to $2,000 price point, and then you can have your GTX lineup in the sub $1,000 price point. Well, now you have all of the information that I have. So you guys can make up your own minds on all of this information. It may be true, it may be FUD. I don't know. This is all speculation. Like I said, both Jim and I are using sources that we have never used before. So, like I said, I was going to wait until the launch of the new cards coming out. And if it proved to be true, then I know that this source is reliable. But I know a lot of you guys are really, really hyped up about this stuff. And like I said, I noticed a few things on Jim's video that just did not jive. Like I said, he's just being told information from a source and, relaying it to you guys. Now, I do see NVIDIA wanting to segment the market further. If they can get away with Titan cards at $3,000 instead of the $1,000 to $1,500 mark that they have been here recently, and selling the top tier technology, basically the 1080 Ti's for $3,000, then eventually cut them down to an RTX card for, let's say, $1,500 or $2,000, and then scale it down using, the RTX 2080, 2070, and so on and so forth, and then keeping GTX for the sub $1,000 market. That's something I can absolutely see NVIDIA doing. If you really think about it, it's a very Intel way of doing things. Segment the markets by breaking up different product lines for different price points. Calling something HEDT, which doesn't really matter in real life, but in Intel's land, that's a premium product, and those typically cost between $1,000 or $2,000 here recently, down to about $500 on consumer products. Now, anything really below about $500 is their consumer lineup. And this, I think, is the way that NVIDIA is probably going to go if these rumors are true. Now, I don't know for sure if any of this is going to happen. I'm okay with just waiting 10 days. But I know everybody out there is really, really excited and really wants to see what's going on. And I think that that's probably what's going to happen. And that's the reason why all these rumors are so all over the place. We're getting a Pascal refresh. No, it's not a Pascal refresh. It's Volta. No, it's Turing. No, it's Ampere. I think it's because there's going to be a new lineup stacked in there, and we weren't expecting that. So that's what's probably throwing a lot of these rumors and speculation off. A lot of them are probably just fake anyway. But like I said, I don't know if my source is correct. We'll find out. I don't know if Jim's source is correct. We'll have to wait and see. But realistically, guys, these are going to be expensive cards. NVIDIA does own the market right now. They can charge whatever they want for whatever they want. So we'll see what actually ends up happening. I don't know. I'm okay, like I said, just waiting, and we'll figure it out here in a couple of days. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Do you think NVIDIA would take advantage of that big gap between the $1,000 and $3,000 price point if they go ahead and keep Titan at $3,000? To me, it makes sense to take advantage of that. As a business, why not? That's a lot more money than the sub $1,000 market. But they still provide cards for that market as well. I think that makes a lot of sense, but let me know what you guys think. Once again, think about it from a business perspective, not from what you want perspective, but from a business perspective, it makes a lot of sense. But like I said, let me know down there. If you like this video, please hit that like button. Please subscribe. Please share with friends. That really helps me out. And if you guys want to help out the channel, please consider becoming a patron over on Patreon. And I just got my H55 motherboard in today. We're going to begin testing on that. So the new Core series will be added into the IPC test. I can't wait. And that's all I have for today. And I will catch you guys in the next video.